Welcome back to Guido's Chop Shop. This is the Tidy Toys M4. I'm not going to be doing a full review on this blaster because I did a full review on the Tidy Toys M16 and essentially they're very much the same thing, albeit that the M16 is an M16 and the M4 is an M4. So internally, they do run the same gearbox, so it's all very similar. I'm not going to be getting into that too much. I will tell you a couple of little gripes I have on the M4 as opposed to the M16. For some reason on the M4, they run the battery leads out the front into the bottom of the handguard, and the battery is run out in the front and not in the buffer tube like every other M4, and I don't know why they did that. It's annoying. You can't fit a full-size battery in there, and there's a whole empty buffer tube that's ready to accept a battery, and I don't really know why they put the battery in the front. The other thing is this stock is really plasticky and sort of dead inside. There's no detail on it. It just seems really plain and ordinary and plasticky, and I don't know if that's because the particular M4A1 that they were modelling it off had a really basic stock, because it probably was based off a military rifle, and military, we don't Gucci things up too much, but it just seems really boring. I don't know. I'm used to something at the back there that's a bit nicer. But they're my two little guys, but they don't really matter because what we're doing here today, if you haven't already noticed, the gearbox is already out of this blaster, and what will be going in is the HSG V2G gearbox. So let's break this down. Oh, it was almost going to be really flawless then, wasn't it? Alright, we won't be needing this anymore. As some of you may know from my last video, I'm running a Titan optical Mosfet in this V2G. So being that these were not ever designed to have another motor hanging off the front of it, the Mosfet kind of freaks out a little bit when you've got another motor there. It sends some transient voltage or some back EMF back into the Mosfet, which the Mosfet's not designed to handle because it was never there. It was never designed with that intention, because these terminals weren't there in the hard polymer game. So gate opticals like the Titan and Asta, they do this thing where if you put it on full auto, it doesn't always happen, but like in some magazines, like the glow gel magazines, are better than the non-glow magazines, but they do this thing where if you put it in auto, it'll fire like maybe 5 to 10 shots and then stop, and it'll throw a code, usually like an over current code or something like that, and then if you pull the mag out and fire it, everything works normally, and it's like, I don't know what's going on. You plug the mag back in, and then all of a sudden it'll only fire like 10 shots, and then it'll throw a code again. And so basically, DNA, they have designed this wiring loom to wire in to your Mosfet, which has got a transient voltage suppressor and back EMF suppressor, and it will basically it basically hides the fact that these terminals exist from the Mosfet, more or less. That's how it works. And they've got this bag. I'm just going to open this bag if I can work out how to get into it. No, I'm going to just cut it open. Apparently I don't know how Ziploc bags work, so... Alright. Got the wiring loom there. We've got a diode with additional red paint. I wonder if that's to make sure you know which side is which. Alright, and we got some heat shrink by the looks of it. Various sizes of heat shrink and some braided tube to go over the wires as well. And then we got the DNA loom there. And inside here is where the magic happens. There is transient voltage suppressor, I suppose, inside there. Let's see how this plugs in. I've got to look at the instructions. Alright, so there is quite detailed instructions on how to install this. I feel like I should probably go through every little step with you, but the intention of this video was not to be entirely about wiring this Mosfet in, but it might end up just being that way. So I mean, I've already soldered the mag terminals to the Mosfet before I got this loom, so I guess part of what I'm going to be doing is already done, because I need to solder the green control wire into the Mosfet board. That'll be the negative terminal. That's probably this one here, so that one's probably already done. This one I guess I'll just remove. Anyway, either way, I'm going to have to open this back up again and get inside and check out the Mosfet. I'm going to have to open this up again and have another look inside here at the Mosfet. Very carefully get this top board off. Okay, so what I'm going to have to do here is remove my mag terminal wires, which I've soldered onto the board here. This one, which is the positive, sorry, this one here will go all together, and this one, which is the negative, will stay, and that will become the trigger wire, the green wire for the enhanced wiring loom. Alright, so these wires were joined together, but given that I only need one of them now, I'll remove this one altogether. Alright, so I'm left with this one, which I'm just going to leave that soldered in situ where it is, because I would have to solder that on anyway. I'm just going to join the green wire to this one there. Now down on the other end here, where the new wiring is going to splice in, they recommend measuring 70 millimeters from the connection there. They recommend having 270 millimeters of wire. I've got about 300, so just slightly more than that. They recommend 70 mils in to splice in your power for the enhanced wiring loom. Now there's a whole bunch of heat shrink and stuff that's going to have to go on here, so I'm going to have to remove this connector before we go any further, so that I can get all the heat shrink and whatnot onto the wires. Alright, get that out of there. Now they provide you a whole bunch of little pieces of heat shrink. There's reds and blacks, and there's some of this nice loom tube. They do give you like a sequence in which you should put all this stuff on. It goes into detail in the actual instructions, so I'm not going to go into great detail, but basically you've got these two glued pieces of heat shrink that actually go either end of this tube. The tube, which is really amazing stuff. I love this tube. So I'll get that on there first. So one piece of glued the tube, and then the other piece will go on after the tube. And as always, it's always a good idea to get your heat shrink on before you start connecting stuff, because it's real difficult to put the heat shrink on after you've soldered the wires. Alright, so gotta cut the insulation for where the loom is gonna be soldered on. 70 millimeters is what they recommend, approximately. So I've exposed some of the wire there. Alright, now if you've got a set of helping hands, these little guys are certainly handy for holding the wires while you're doing the soldering. If you've got a pair, a good idea. If you don't, then stick them in a V-can or something. Anything will do, just something that holds them still. And now we get to start soldering our little unit in here. I'll undo the nicely wrapped wiring here. Get it soldered on. Alright, and now we get to solder them on. It's part of my favourite part. Probably is my favourite part. Just gonna say it is. I don't know if you can see this on the camera, it's not the best angle. Now that we've got them soldered on, we get to see some gratuitous heat shrinking. This is my favourite part of the whole thing. Something so satisfying about watching the heat shrink. Look at that. Beautiful. Now there's 3 more wires here, black, red and green. You got your main power connectors that we've just connected up. The black and the red are going to be the positive and negative of the mag terminals, and the green is going to be the fire control. So I'm actually going to slip these ones up through this sheathing here. I'm sure that's how it's supposed to be done. It doesn't actually mention in the manual to slide these through the sheath, but it's just going to be a whole lot nicer with this whole loom just going through this sheath, and then these 3 wires will actually pop around the outside of the gearbox case. So I'm just going to do that now. Actually I'm just going to cut the ends off these because I don't want them. I'm going to make it difficult to slide through. So now that they're cut off, I should be able to slide this through nice and easy, just up through there. I'll just do that till the whole thing's through there and make it nice and neat. Alright, so I've run the wires through. I'm just trimming them down to length now. Gonna have negative here, positive there, and this one, the green one, is the trigger, which fortunately for me I already had this soldered onto the board from previously when I had this connected up to here. So I'll just connect the green one to that white wire, and then you have the all important diode, and the diode's going to go in here between the 2 mag terminals. It's very important that you get the polarity of the diode right. They've painted the stripe red on this diode so that you know that it goes to the positive side, which is cute, clever, stops people from mixing it up. But yeah, so basically that's going to go between the 2 terminals, and the mag wires are going to be soldered on there. Alright, now I'll get that little diode soldered in there as well. Alright, got the little diode soldered in between the 2 mag terminals there. Now I've just got to join up this green wire and the white wire. We'll be done. Now if you didn't have this wire already like I did, you will have to wire it into the Mosfet board itself. It's not too difficult, it's just it wires into the trigger circuitry. You can usually find the blob where the motor wire, where this motor wire comes off of the circuit board inside. Alright, there we go. So the DNA loom is all wired up. Incidentally, if you didn't want to connect to your Mosfet circuit board here with the negative trigger wire, you could always just join it to the negative wire on your motor. That's just another way of doing it. It connects to the same point, so you can wire it directly onto the board or onto the negative wire for your motor. It will work the same. there it is. That's a nice, neat solution. I haven't heat shrunk these bits yet because I'm waiting until I fit it into the receiver to make sure everything fits nicely. Then I'll shrink these down. Yeah, this was gonna be my next step. Well, I guess it kind of was. This was supposed to be a video on the HSG V2G gearbox and the build of that, but it's kind of got I guess the DNA enhanced wiring loom stole the show, kind of stole this video. I was just building the V2G, but then I got to this point where I pretty much needed to put this on anyway because the Titan Mosfet and other optical Mosfets sort of have that potential issue. I figured I might as well go through the whole process of how I'm connecting it up and all that sort of stuff too, so it's easier for you guys when you guys want to hook it up. So it's a step-by-step process. It's quite easy to do. The instructions are quite thorough. The ones that come with it, they're quite thorough instructions, so they're easy enough to follow. Yeah, and it is a nice looking solution. The little blob at the back is probably not too big. It'll fit into the buffer tube quite nicely without being too intrusive. I like this sleeve that comes with it as well. That worked well. Anyway, I'm going to call it for now. That's as far as I can go tonight because I'm running out of time. But I will continue with this. This will be going into the receiver soon. So stay tuned. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And if you are interested in buying a patch, whoosh, you can hit me on the face page about that. And you can also buy Remy some cat food. And you can do that in the Buy Me a Coffee link down the bottom because he's a hungry boy.